Hi, my name is Chris and this is Battle Nonsense. In my previous video I showed you how the netcode is working now after the latest big changes that were done in the CTE. So if you have not seen that video yet, then you should pause this video, watch the netcode video and then continue here. Okay, so now you know everything about the high frequency network update cone and the hemisphere, how frequently weapon damage is received from the server and how much bandwidth is required to run the game with an update rate of 30 Hz. Now, one of the most common questions I got in the comments of this video was why DiceLA even bothers to use these cones and hemispheres. Battlefield 4 requires so little bandwidth when running at 30 Hz that it must be possible to update our client with everything that's going on in the entire map at 30 Hz. And not just what happens inside that hemisphere and the cone. And there we even only get updates for enemy players more frequently and not for our teammates. This observation isn't wrong, but a little bit short-sighted. Let me explain why. Battlefield 4 is now over 1 year old and this means that the hardware requirements as well as the bandwidth requirements for consoles, PCs and also the game servers have been set in stone a long time ago. For the game server providers this was even included in the contracts. Sure, DiceLA could change the game so that you get 30 updates per second for everything that happens on the entire map. But this would greatly increase the stress on your hardware and your internet connection. And even more so for the game server providers. So this cannot be done without breaking these existing limits. The same can be said about the frequently demanded increase of the update rates above 30 Hz. If you would aim for 60 Hz, then the hardware and bandwidth requirements will increase a lot, especially because increasing the update rates also requires that you increase the simulation rate, or tick rate of the game, from 30 Hz to 60. Or you have no data that you can send more frequently. Increasing the tick rate is sadly not as easy as just replacing a 30 with a 60. I know that a few developers want to look into the possibility of supporting rates higher than a 30, but if it gets done then it will most likely be limited to servers which have a player count of 32 or less. But don't get your hopes up just yet, because the developers first have to find out what happens when you increase the rate above 30. And how much work is required to get this supported and included into the game. The ideal solution for an upcoming game is to have the tick rate and the update rates available as config values for the game server providers, so that I can order higher tick rates and higher update rates as an option. So the bottom line is that there are limits for Battlefield 4, limits which the developers cannot just ignore. So they try very hard to come up with creative solutions like these high frequency network update cone and hemisphere to get the most out of it as possible. So don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to make up excuses here for the developers, but there's only so much they can do with these existing limits. If these were chosen wisely when the game was created is a different topic, but they clearly do not help us players. The changes I showed you in the previous video really increased the experience when playing Battlefield 4, especially when you try to hit a moving target at long distances, but these are currently only available in the community test environment. So I hope that early next year we get a patch for the public version of Battlefield 4, which does not only include the high frequency update network cone and the hemisphere, but also the fix for how the game handles players who are suffering from packet loss, as well as the collecting of damage or receiving too much damage in one frame issue. For the future I just hope that DICE will completely change how they think about the so-called netcode and the priority it has during development. The networking, game build updates as well as the hit registration must be one of the most important aspects of the development of the next title. Because all the great and original gameplay design ideas, the stunning visuals, destruction, levolution, networked water simulation, etc. all of that cannot be enjoyed and appreciated by the gamers when they get shot around cover, die in one frame, or get knifed from the front and have a counter knife failing or not offered a counter knife at all. DICE should have learned their lesson after Battlefield 3, but they didn't, so I hope that they learned the lesson after Battlefield 4 and that Battlefront will provide us a much better networking and hit registration. So what else is happening at the moment? Obviously everyone is going crazy about the Phantom Bow, but I don't have to explain that to you as there are like a million videos about that. Then there are a lot of rumors of a new Battlefield 4 DLC or map pack, but there is nothing concrete. The premium calendar did get expanded, but if we will really get new maps, that is just not clear at all at this point. What we do know, however, is that DICE wants to give us new maps, but if they get the money from EA to do that, that is a different story. If we get additional maps, then I would hope for classic Battlefield 2 maps like Marsh Tourist City, Road to Jalalabad, Kubra Dam and Fuji Pass, as these were some of my most favorite Battlefield maps ever. In a community test environment, this week has been pretty calm because it's Thanksgiving in the US and most guys at DICE took the week off to spend time with their family. Next week we will get a big update as the developers integrate a new branch into the CTE on which they have been working on for quite some time. I hope that this means that more helicopters will get the new flight mechanics and that they start to rework the countermeasures as well as the lock-on missiles. Maybe we even get the new vehicle physics from Battlefield Hardline, and I would be really happy to see that fix for the packet loss issue that causes the collecting of damage and too much damage in one frame. And since I just mentioned Hardline, there are a lot of infos dropping about that game on Twitter at the moment. I did plan to make a video about it, but if you check out the latest video from Lutin, where he did an interview with Thad Sasser, who is the lead multiplayer designer, then you will get all that info directly from the guy who is working on that game. So a few of you asked me what I think about Hardline now, after we have seen more gameplay trailers and that new information was released. Well, as I said after the beta, Hardline does have a lot of potential, but it was not different enough to feel like a new game, something worth my money. But Visceral has been listening to the feedback they got in the beta, so during the last months they have been busy doing a lot of changes to the game, and I am very happy about a lot of these changes. The weapons are now faction specific. Suppression does not cause that I suddenly lose the ability to aim. The scoring system rewards teamwork and playing the objective much more. The maps are designed to have them properly support the game modes that are available for them. There are a lot less Michael Bay explosions, no lock-on madness, classes depend on each other, especially in some of the game modes it is essential to have the right classes in your team. There are no knife animations from the front and no counter knife and a lot more. So quite a few people say Hardline is not a real Battlefield. And quite frankly I agree. In my opinion, not even Bad Company is a real Battlefield game, even though it has a military theme. The thing is, I don't even want all these games to be a real Battlefield game, because we already have a Battlefield game. I don't need 3 franchises to deliver the same experience. I want each of them to deliver a different experience, and Hardline seems to develop in that direction. So if you like Battlefield, then you don't have to like Bad Company and Hardline, and the other way around. These are different games for different kinds of gamers, and I have no problem to see these coexist. And I hope that EA gets the Bad Company franchise out of the basement again, because I really want to get a new Bad Company game. That said, I see a lot introduced into Hardline now, which I would have wished to see in Battlefield 3 and 4. Many of the recent game design choices made for Hardline push this game more towards the place where the Refractor engine Battlefield games are in, which in my opinion is the real Battlefield. So while ignoring the theme and only looking at it from the gameplay perspective, there might be more real Battlefield in Hardline than there is in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. So until we find out what Hardline is really like, you should better stay far away from the pre-order button. Wait for the beta, which should start early next year. Wait for post-release reviews from people you trust. Just remember how we got and still get burned when we buy games on day one or pre-order them. The only way to teach the developers and studios that we want high product quality on release is by not buying the products before release. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then give it a like, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, have a nice day and take care. My name is Chris, and this was Battle Nonsense.